The government's contentious industrial relations changes have just passed a minute or so ago in the lower house. Let's bring in Trudy McIntosh live from Canberra. Trudy, that's one hurdle passed for the government.
And a big hurdle to come, Ash. We knew that the numbers were always in the government's favour in the lower house, but still quite the process it took this morning. Nearly 4 hours of debates, rolling divisions, as the Workplace Relations Minister, Tony Burke, oversaw the arguments about the contentious industrial relations changes that Labor has now put forward. They have just won this vote in the House. It was ultimately 80 to 56, the government's way here. So now this legislation will make its way to the upper house and the Senate. They return in just over a week's time. That is where the real crunch is here, because the government doesn't have enough numbers. Even if it has the support of the Greens, it needs to win over one Senate crossbencher. The two people in play here, we believe, David Pocock from the ACT and Jackie Lambie from Tasmania. A lot of negotiations are being done behind the scenes to see if they can sway one of these crossbenchers over the line. So far, that hasn't been successful. We know that the crossbench is saying they'd like more time to scrutinise what is a very detailed piece of legislation that after today in the House, it's been changed quite dramatically. Lots of proposals have been amended here by the government to try and win over enough support. This is Tony Burke just before we saw the final vote there, as he tried to implore his colleagues to get on with the job.
This bill will get wages moving. It'll streamline the process for single enterprise bargaining to incentivise greater take-up by employers and employees. These changes will update our workplace laws to bring employers and employees together to improve wages, conditions and productivity.
Make no mistake, though, there's still plenty of fierce opposition to the changes which have been brought forward by the government. It includes scrapping the ABCC, the construction body. It also includes changes to the so-called Better Off Overall test. The most controversial that we hear the most about is the expansion of multi-employer bargaining. The coalition have been dead opposed to this. They've teamed up with big business and small business who've raised a lot of concerns. One of them, the claim coming from the opposition, is it will lead to widespread strikes across the country.
They've moved 150 amendments, Ray, to this bill that they only put together a week ago. So there's a lot that they're making up on the run. One of the really strange inclusions that they've put into the bill now gives the unions a right of veto over an agreement that employers can arrive at with their employees. I mean, this really, frankly, takes us back to a Whitlam era.
And Trudy, on another matter, the Reserve Bank's admitted that it was caught by surprise by inflation.
Yeah, interesting to see these comments by the Reserve Bank Deputy Governor, Michelle Bullock. She's been in the hot seat at Senate estimates here this afternoon. She's been grilled on the comments of the Governor, Phil Lowe, where he indicated during the pandemic that we wouldn't see an interest rate rise by the Reserve Bank until 2024. Now, obviously, that didn't eventuate as we see inflation continuing to climb. We've seen 7 consecutive interest rates rises now since May, and no sign that that's going to end. Michelle Bullock admitting today that the bank just was caught off guard as to how quickly we're going to see inflation soar off the back of the COVID pandemic.
Well, I think what we were trying to do at the time was give our best guess of where we thought inflation was at, and unfortunately we were surprised. Obviously I have a lot of sympathy for people who undertook particular transactions thinking that that was what was going to happen.
The Reserve Bank Deputy Governor said they had no choice but to raise interest rates, and there's no sign at this stage, Ash, that they've peaked for now.
Trudy McIntosh live in Canberra, thank you.